In the seconds after Queen Elizabeth II drew her final breath at Balmoral, a transfer of power took place that required no signature, no announcement, and no permission from anyone alive. By the time the world was told she was gone, Prince William already controlled one of the largest private estates in Britain, and according to reports circulating through royal circles ever since, the way that transfer landed, instant, total, and beyond challenge, has allegedly left one branch of the family asking a very uncomfortable question: what exactly was left for them? None of this has been confirmed by the palace, and it never will be, because the documents that could settle it are locked away by a legal mechanism most people have never heard of. Stay with me, because by the end of this video you'll understand why insiders reportedly describe what the late Queen built as a fortress, and why Camilla's family, sources suggest, may have found themselves standing outside its walls. Before we go further, take a second to subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter of this story. Now let's start with the part that is absolutely verifiably real. The moment Queen Elizabeth died on the 8th of September 2022, her grandson became the Duke of Cornwall, not by ceremony, not by decree, by automatic operation of a rule laid down in the year 1337, when King Edward III created the Duchy of Cornwall to fund the heir to the throne. For nearly 7 centuries, that estate has passed instantly to the heir apparent the moment the previous holder moves on. It did not go into probate, it did not wait for lawyers. It went to William, and understand what we're talking about. The Duchy of Cornwall is roughly 130,000 acres across more than 20 counties, farmland, forests, coastline, commercial property. Even the Oval Cricket Ground in London sits on Duchy land. Its value has been publicly reported at around £1 billion, generating more than £20 million a year. That income now belongs to William, and no one else in the family can touch it, not the King, not the Queen. But buried inside that transfer is a detail so strange most people refuse to believe it at first. Highgrove House, the Gloucestershire estate Charles has poured his heart into for 40 years, the gardens he designed hedge by hedge, universally described as his true home, does not belong to Charles. It never did. Highgrove is owned by the Duchy of Cornwall, which means that at the precise moment Charles became king, he also became a tenant of his own son. It has been widely reported that the King now pays rent, a figure placed in the press at several £100,000 a year, to the Duchy William controls, just to keep living in the house he built his life around. Father pays son, the King pays the heir. Nobody designed it as a statement, it's simply how 700-year-old machinery works. But you could not invent a more perfect symbol of where the gravity in this family now sits. That's the public part, that's the part with receipts. But the Duchy was never the part that reportedly caused friction. To understand the alleged tension, you have to see something most viewers never do. Royal wealth isn't one pile, it's 3. The Crown estate, which belongs to the institution, not any individual. The Duchy system we just covered. And then the third category, the quiet one, the Queen's personal private property. And it's inside that third category that this entire story lives. Sandringham in Norfolk, Balmoral in Scotland, 70,000 acres between them. Not state property, the Queen's own, bought by her ancestors with private money, hers to leave to anyone she chose, both passed to King Charles. And here's the verifiable detail that changes everything. Under a deal struck in 1993 with John Major's government, assets passing from sovereign to sovereign are exempt from inheritance tax. Ordinary families pay 40%. The transfer from Elizabeth to Charles, reportedly worth hundreds of millions, attracted a bill of nothing, zero. Perfectly legal, publicly acknowledged. Now think about what that exemption quietly does. It rewards royal wealth for flowing in one direction only, straight down the line of succession. Elizabeth to Charles, one day Charles to William. Any asset that steps off that path, say toward a spouse's children from a previous marriage, steps out of the exemption and into the tax system. Commentators have said for years that this one rule acts like a riverbank, channeling everything toward the direct heirs and away from everyone else. Nobody had to write anyone out. The architecture does it by itself, but that's not even the strangest part, because if you wanted to check, if you wanted to read the Queen's will and see what she actually left and to whom, you can't. Since 1910, the wills of senior royals have been sealed by the courts. When Prince Philip died, the High Court ordered his will sealed for at least 90 years, and the judge stated he hadn't even read it when he made the order. The Queen's will received the same treatment. 90 years. Whatever Elizabeth decided about her jewels, her investments, her personal fortune, estimated at several £100 million, it's locked inside a legal silence that will outlast every adult watching this video. So when sources claim there was disappointment or fury or a sense of being shut out, nobody can prove it, but nobody can disprove it either. And that vacuum is exactly where this story turns. Because now we need to talk about Camilla's family, and precision matters here. Camilla has 2 children from her first marriage, Tom Parker Bowles, a genuinely successful food writer and critic who built his career on his own name, and Laura Lopes, an art curator so private most Britons couldn't pick her out of a photograph. They hold no royal titles, they stand nowhere in the line of succession. And Tom has said openly in interviews, paraphrasing his own words, that he considers himself an ordinary person and expects nothing from the institution. Take that at face value. Yet the structural facts remain what they are. The duchy can never touch them by law, the tax exemption can never apply to them by design, and if the late Queen left them anything or nothing, the sealed will means the world won't know for 90 years. They live beside the river, close enough to hear it, with no channel that could ever divert a single drop toward them. And here's where it gets sharper, because on the public stage, the story looks completely different. In 2022, Queen Elizabeth herself publicly declared her sincere wish that Camilla be crowned queen. At the coronation, Camilla's grandson served as pages of honor inside Westminster Abbey, while Tom and Laura watched their mother crowned. On the great stage, her family wasn't shut out, they were deliberately woven in, which is why the whispers that followed reportedly cut so deep, because ceremony is the currency of the present. Property is the currency of the future. You can stand in the Abbey in velvet and still, allegedly, discover the future has no room reserved in your name. And this is where everything changed. From the day William took over the duchy, he ran it, by every published account, like a chief executive, touring farms within weeks, reviewing arrangements his predecessors left undisturbed, building actual homes for the homeless on duchy land in Cornwall. Inside a family where property is power, sources claim that was read as a signal. The heir wasn't waiting his turn, he was already governing. Then came the shake-ups, real, documented, one after another. Harry and Meghan ordered out of Frogmore Cottage in 2023, and in late 2025, the endgame of the longest property standoff in modern royal history, Andrew, stripped of his prince title, now plain Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, finally forced out of Royal Lodge, the 30-room mansion he'd clung to for 2 decades. And where did he go? To private accommodation on Sandringham, the King's private estate. The same estate that will one day pass to William, meaning the family's most controversial figure, now lives on land his nephew stands to inherit, his entire arrangement eventually landing on William's desk. Meanwhile, William and Catherine quietly moved their family into Forest Lodge in Windsor Great Park, reportedly paid for themselves, described across the press as their forever home. The future king isn't waiting for the castles, he's building his base on his own terms. And every commentator agrees where his reported blueprint leads, a monarchy leaner than his father's. Built around 5 people, himself, Catherine and their 3 children. Everyone else becomes family, not firm. Hold that blueprint against Camilla's side of the tree, and you see the problem instantly. According to accounts attributed to unnamed household sources, none of it confirmed, and I'll keep saying so, the mood in Camilla's circle allegedly shifted from quiet acceptance to something closer to alarm as the shape of the future came into focus. Every review, every eviction, every consolidation reinforced one reality. The next reign has no cushion for anyone outside the core. Insiders reportedly used a phrase that stuck. The drawbridge is going up. Was there fury, as the headlines claim? Here's the honest answer. Reports of frustration inside Camilla's wider circle have appeared repeatedly, always from anonymous sources, always met with palace silence. No member of her family has said a public word to support it, so treat the fury for what it is, a rumor with legs, repeated because it fits the shape of the facts. But notice, the facts do have a shape, and the shape is not kind to anyone standing outside the direct line, which brings us to the quietest piece of this story, and the one that reveals the most. Camilla owns a private home, Ray Mill House, in Wiltshire, bought after her divorce in the 90s. She has kept it through the marriage, the jubilee, the coronation itself, never sold it. She reportedly retreats there regularly, without the king, to be with her children and grandchildren. For years, royal watchers called it a charming eccentricity, but look at it through everything you've just heard, and it starts to look like something else entirely. It looks like insurance. Think it through. On the day the reign changes, and every reign changes, Camilla's constitutional role dissolves into history. A queen dowager with a stepson on the throne whose priorities center on his wife and children. Buckingham Palace, Windsor, Sandringham, Balmoral, every one of those roofs would belong to William. Whatever access Camilla or her children had at that point would exist purely at the new king's discretion, not by right, by his personal decision alone. Sources have allegedly suggested this exact scenario has been discussed within her circle, and that Ray Mill has always been the answer to it, the one door no future king can close. But flip the perspective one last time, because there's a version of this story with no villain at all, and it might be the truest one. Elizabeth watched her family survive abdication, divorce, scandal, and a media machine that devours everything. If she structured her private world so its heart passed silently and untouchably down the direct line, sealed wills, tax-exempt transfers, duchies that moved by ancient automatic right, maybe that wasn't coldness. Maybe it was the final act of a woman who understood that the surest way to protect a legacy is to make it impossible to fight over. You cannot litigate what you cannot read. You cannot divide what transfers in a heartbeat. And the architecture doesn't stop at William. The moment he becomes king, the entire billion-pound duchy transfers instantly, automatically, tax-free to Prince George. A boy doing his homework in Windsor stands to control 130,000 acres before most people his age finish university. Every generation of the direct line is provided for before they're born. Everyone outside it must make their own arrangements. That isn't cruelty. That's the machine, and it predates everyone in this story by 600 years. Elizabeth spent 70 years being underestimated as a sweet elderly lady in pastel hats. Then she died, and the machinery she left behind clicked into place with a precision no rival, inside the family or out, has found a single way to challenge. Maybe that was the point all along. So here's the question I'll leave you with, and I genuinely want your answer in the comments. When this reign ends and William holds everything, every estate, every key, every decision, what happens to a Queen Dowager and a family who were never written into the blueprint? Does William extend the courtesy his father would want? Or does the drawbridge, as the insiders allegedly put it, finally close for good? Tell me what you think, because within our lifetimes we're going to find out.